What's up, everyone? Here it's got some Philly cheesesteak sandwich right here, and also got some curly fries, and also got some milk tea right here. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna devour these sandwiches right here. It's not that big, but it's pretty good though. Okay, today we're gonna talk about Appare Ranman, episode 3. So if you remember from episode 2, there was toward the end of the episode, we see Appare and Kosame seeing a little like Native American boy getting beat up in the alley. So this is where episode 3 picks up at. So the boy is just getting, just beat up by a bunch of grown men, and a bystander named Dylan, who's also part of the racetrack. If you remember, he was a big time racer, and I believe he's going to obviously be participating in this Trans America race. Comes to the rescue, right? And eventually, the little Native American boy asks Dylan and shows him a tattoo, saying, "Have you seen anyone with this tattoo?" And he doesn't actually outright say no. And, and Dylan warns him that you may be, getting, getting yourself into trouble if you keep on diving in any further. So, Dylan probably knows who has that tattoo. And if you know the history of the Native Americans, of the tragic past of, Americans, invading America, pretty much is the story of this little boy. So we discovered this little boy's name is Hototo. Yeah, and just like in the American history books, his father and some of his tribe were killed off by um, these individuals, and particularly Hototo remembers this person with this particular tattoo, and he has traveled pretty far in search of this individual, and he has his family and mom and sisters back home. Okay, so we move on. So this episode, it's been only 3 episodes, but it has to build up. So today's episode, there's actually a race, and we get introduced to this new character named Lyon. He's a rich boy from Europe, and he's here in LA, obviously, to win the Trans America race. And in doing so, he wants to win it all, obviously. And his family is one of the 3 big automobile companies, BMW, a.k.a. BMW in real life, right? And he's one of the younger brothers, and he wants to prove to his father and older brother as well that he's ready to take the company under his own wing, right? And by doing so, he wants to prove himself by winning the Trans America race. So actually, Allion is a super rich kid, as I mentioned before, and he uses the exact same warehouse that Appare and Kusame are using, and as a result, they're kicked out, right? And immediately Appare goes to Allion and challenges him to a race. And so if Appare wins the race, then they can use the storehouse however they like. But Appare and Kosame don't really have much to offer on their end, and he says, "You know what? Let me see if I win this race. Let me get Kosame's katanas." And if in Japanese culture, samurai back in these days, and I believe these katanas are handed down to generation. These katanas are pretty much like the lifeline of Kosame, if you think about it. For him, that is. So Appare says, "You know what? I'm actually building a car right now, and if when we saw in this episode that this car was actually made from the boat that they were using, so he didn't waste any parts at all. So he was making a new car. He said, "Al, give me 10 days, and then my car will be ready, and let's do this race." And then as a result, Appare has no time to waste. He actually visits Jing Xiaolian, who, if you remember, she's a Chinese girl working at the racetrack, and she hooks him up with some spare parts that are from wrecked cars, but parts that are deemed to be still usable. Okay, let me just put some right here. Oh yes, I forgot to mention. Of course, Appare sees Al with this nice new BMW car, right? And he takes a look at the car, and he's immediately entranced by how elegant it looks, um, by the style, of course. But when he takes a look inside the car, he says that this car is nothing really too special. It's just like any other cars all out in the market these days. And he says there's some improvements that can be made, but he said my car will beat you in this race. So Al took up upon this challenge. Kind of he, he likes Appare's tenacity in that sense. And then Al's with the beautiful young woman. I thought she was his fiance or lover, but she's just his caretaker, and her name is Sophia. So she's just watching over him during this his whole visit in Los Angeles, and the whole race as well. Okay, so before, really probably sometimes a couple of days before the race, Al and Sophia visit Appare, Kosame, and Hototo, and you know, kind of punching jabs at them a little bit, saying, "How's everything going over here? Just want to check up on you guys." And then Appare, he pulls up on a scooter device that he made by himself, obviously, and Al's immediately entranced by the scooter, and he wants to hop on it. But Appare says, "You know what? Let's make another bet." He doubles down. He has big dick energy, I'm telling you. Appare says, "You know what? Let's make another bet. So if if I win the race again, I'm gonna take your car that you're driving right now, and but if you win, you can get my measly scooter." So obviously, these bets don't really make too much sense. But Leon's like, "You know what? I got this in the bag. There's no way your janky car can beat my top of the line BMW technology as of right now." So he said, "You know what? I'm gonna double down too. I'm going all in. I'm gonna Let's make this bet." So eventually, I believe 10 days pass, and the day of the race comes. So this track they chose is, I think it's probably far outside of LA, where there's no civilians or anything like that. It's just like flat land, no buildings whatsoever, and civilians too. So the object of this race, the racetrack, there's a tree in the distance. So pretty much you just have to go around the tree and come back and touch the tree where we are currently starting at the race line. So initially, the race starts, and obviously, Al's car is pretty much more superior. He gets a good head start, but don't always count Appare out of the equation. He does a shortcut and he goes off a cliff, and somehow he's right neck and neck with Al. And eventually, the car takes a sharp turn and it struggles a little bit making the turn around the tree. And approximately when I forgot how many meters Appare said, telling Kosame, but Appare has a trump card. He said pull the red lever. And if you really like racing games of that sort, like Need for Speed or all those type of racing games, there's always that nitro boost that you have. So yeah, this reminded me of that when you're doing racing games. So yeah, Appare told Kosame to pull this red lever, and as a result, this nitro boost incurred on the car. So pretty much, this race was kind of weird. I guess it counted as a win, but obviously the nitro boost worked. But that part of the nitro boost of the car sent Kosame flying, and Appare was like half of the car, and it flew Kosame forward, right? And eventually, at one point, Kosame had to get off the car because he wasn't quite there yet, and he had to run by foot. And eventually, obviously, he won barely, just by touching the tree with his bare hands. And no one thought that this would even be possible, that Appare and Kosame would win this race. Oh, I forgot to mention Jing Xiaolian was also there to witness this race as well, and Sophia and Hotato and the whole crew right there. So everyone was shocked to their dismay, and as a result, Al, being the good sportsmanship dude he was, he said, I'm gonna keep my end of the bargain. You can have my nice car right here, top of the line right here. But he said that actually this is his secondary car. He actually has a real race car that is much faster, he says, according to him. And Appare definitely likes the challenge. He says, but when the time of the race comes, I'm gonna have built a much better, faster car for the Trans-America race. And as a result, it's this is like a little hilarious part at the end. So as a result, Al, being the stubborn dude that he is, he says, I'm gonna take my L today, but I'm gonna take it like a man and walk back to the city. I'm not sure how far that is, but with Kosame and I guess Appare, I don't know, it seems kind of savage. You're gonna let a guy walk all the way back after this race and you're gonna drive him, but anyways, Appare remembered that Al was really entranced by his scooter invention, and Appare obviously offered to give it to Al, but Al refused. Being the little pouty little kid that he is, his pride was in the way a little bit. But Sophia, she says, let me jump in here. You know what? Let me take it. I'll take it off your hands. And obviously, she did, and we can see the two walking off while Sophia was on the scooter device, and obviously probably Al's gonna get on it eventually. So yeah, that's the end of this episode. And I believe Appare Ranman, I'm not quite sure, but I think it might be delayed due to coronavirus. And there's tons of other series this season delayed as well, like Shokugeki no Soma is delayed, and there's some other ones as well. I can't remember on the top of my head. But yeah, hopefully, ReZero was actually supposed to air this spring, but it got delayed as a result to the summer. And I hope there's actually some decent series that are gonna air back in the summer. Especially Haikyuu is gonna come back again. Ooh, the Inter High tournament arc is like so good. I can't wait because they're playing Rizaki High School right now, which it was just getting good. They cut us off short. Well, this is the second part of the fourth season, I think. But yeah, it's getting really good. And yeah, hopefully, the coronavirus doesn't actually delay the summer series any further. I hope so. Crossing my fingers, Yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. All right, everyone. Peace.